Joining me now to discuss the rescissions package deadline that would make the DOGE cuts permanent is the Executive Vice President of the National Taxpayers Union, Brandon Arnold. Thanks for the time tonight. You know, it's been said by many that we have not had a serious rescission in 3 decades. So we know the deficit is the amount of money that is spent versus the amount of money that's taken in, sometimes patched with borrowing. But if we can actually start to claw back money, billions of dollars, that will shrink or eat away at the deficit.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And let me first say, I strongly support this rescissions package. But then also, let's look at the big picture here. This is a $9.4 billion with a B rescissions package. That's about 0.14% of the federal budget. We're talking about pretty small potatoes here. Meanwhile, we're running a deficit. As you said, that's the amount of money that we spend relative to the amount of money we take in a given year. We're running a deficit of about $2 trillion. So this is a step in the right direction. It's a small step in the right direction, but hopefully this is the first of many, many steps that will start to improve the fiscal health of this country, because guess what? We are in really, really bad shape as far as that's concerned.
I agree. The first rescission is not going to do much. But if they can get 1 passed, 2 passed, 3 passed, if they can look at the waste, fraud, and abuse that was identified by DOGE, and they could continue to cut back and cut back and cut back and cut back and take the next year to produce a bill that actually makes cuts and starts to pay down the deficit, then we're really going in the right direction.
Yeah, that's right. And this is one of those packages that if it passes, good, let's build on that momentum. If it fails, and it's possible, unlikely, but possible that it fails.
I know.
Then we're talking about a real catastrophic situation, because if Congress doesn't have the gumption, the courage, the cojones to go out there and cut $9 billion at a time when we're spending $1.2 trillion just to finance our interest on our national debt, then we're in a really tough spot here. So hopefully this is going to be a success. Again, I think it will be, but there is a little bit of arm twisting that's currently taking place on Capitol Hill as the left gears up and has this Chicken Little approach that the sky is falling every time we cut a nickel of the federal budget. If this somehow fails, we'd be in a tough spot. But I'm hopeful. I'm going to stay optimistic here. We're going to pass this. We're going to build on it. We're going to pass the one big, beautiful bill, hopefully improve it along the way. And we're going to start taking our debt situation very, very seriously, because I think is the biggest economic factor that Americans should be looking at now, the biggest concern that we should have when we look at the well-being of our economy as a whole.
Well, I think we all know this is a tough needle to thread. And it's funny listening to individual members of Congress, because no one snowflake takes responsibility for the avalanche, right? I mean, this was happening long before Donald Trump ever showed up in Washington. But you hear members of Congress and the Senate campaigning, we got to change Washington. I mean, I've been here for 30 years, but now we got to change Washington. When you have someone who arrived late on the scene and only has 3.5 years left, perhaps to right the ship, or at least till the midterm elections. And if Republicans hold on, they could do even more. But Donald Trump is not a guy that is trying to make friends with the swamp.
No, that's exactly true. And I think the adage, the analogy, I should say, of the aircraft carrier comes into play here. For more than 25 years, we've been running deficits. They've gotten out of hand since the pandemic, absolutely out of hand. We're spending more money today as a percentage of the economy than we have since 1946, with the exception of the pandemic itself and the financial crisis of 2008, 2009. There's absolutely no justification for that. We're not in the midst of a full-scale war here. We're not dealing with a natural disaster of any kind of significant proportion. So the fact that we're spending this much money is a policy choice that Washington has collectively made over the past couple decades. It needs to be remedied. And again, that aircraft carrier, you can't turn it around on a dime. It's got to be turned around in the series of steps over a course of time here. So this $9.4 billion package, the right step in the right direction, but it's the first of many, many steps that's going to be required to get our nation back where it needs to be.
Well, do you think part of the problem is for, popular elections, both Democrats and Republicans let just too many people, to the tune of millions of people, become dependent on some form of a handout, of some kind of gift of largesse from the Treasury. I mean, it's a crazy promise that we make to ourselves that we're going to have all this massive spending because we owe it to ourselves and we're the richest country. But really, on a spreadsheet, we're not the richest country. We're going to have $40 trillion in debt, pretty soon. And there's going to come a point where the interest on the debt outweighs GDP as a whole. If we get there, austerity is going to come whether you like it or not.
Yeah, there's a tipping point there. And we focused a lot on building the wall on the southern border, which is important to secure our southern border. But there's another wall that we need to build. That's a wall around the welfare state. Illegal immigrants should not have access to our welfare programs. We need to reform them to remove anyone that shouldn't be receiving Medicaid, food stamps, you name it. If they don't deserve to receive those programs because they're eligible to work or able to work or because they're here illegally, we absolutely need to build that wall around these programs. That will help our fiscal health considerably. But again, there's more work to be done to get ourselves to a place where we need to be.
And we need to start considering privatizing part of Social Security. I mean, when President Bush, said 2%, the Democrats went nuts and nothing ever happened. All right, I'm out of time. I got to leave it there. We'll get you back on the program soon.
All right. Thank you very much.